What is this with the new guitar? Well, a lot more will follow about these guitars. We got another one in the house from the same manufacturer, or I should say the same guy who builds them. Because this is handmade and it's a really cool instrument. But a lot more to come about that. So stay tuned here on the channel and remember to subscribe. This video is not about this guitar specifically. It's about the number one thing you need to focus on in order to get rapid results when you practice. You know, and there is a thing you can focus on, right? It's not like it's just, we get caught up in our language. We just talk about practicing as if everybody knows what it is. But since we don't know the mechanics of how to learn or think about them really, because the language becomes like a hypnosis. It's like we say, okay, go home and practice that. And we think we know what that is. At least I did when I started out, right? I said, go home and practice it. And what we do is we just try to repeat it, we try to do it, basically. That's what we do, right? And we try to get it right. And that's practicing. But we make a huge mistake, and here it is. Here's the point. Here's the absolute number one thing to focus on when you practice, and it is to focus on what you want to become better at. This is not as straightforward as it seems. Common sense is not so common. But what happens is, if we compare it to one of my favorite examples, it's the trying to hit the basketball hoop, right? You're trying to get that ball through the hoop. And you're concentrating, and you're really trying to do it, and sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't. You might try to play a couple of chords or practice a couple of chords here, or a whole piece of classical music, whatever it is. Oh, it's a picking exercise, whatever it is, or it's hammer-on and pull-offs, right? Whatever it is, it's the same thing as trying to do something else. And what happens in 99% of cases, at least that's what happened to me when I didn't have the guidance I have now, is that our focus drifts. We think that just because we're doing something that reminds us of what it is that we want to do. For instance, if we want to do hammer-ons and pull-offs, we have to hammer on with the tip of our fingers, and when we pull off, we have to pull off the string. If we're not doing any of those things, and if we're not focused on doing any of those things, all we do is fret and unfret the notes, right? We just go. And it sounds like we're practicing, but we're not. That, when it comes to legato or hammer-ons and pull-offs, is the same thing as trying to hit the ball, get the ball through the hoop. And then you stand there for a while, and then you get tired of focusing. So you just throw the ball to the vicinity of the hoop, right? To the basket. You don't even try to hit it anymore. You just, whatever. And you can stand there the whole freaking day without getting even an inch better. Because the brain stopped practicing. Now we're just throwing the ball in that direction, right? And what happens there? Well, we stop evaluating, or the brain stops evaluating what is success, which is what we want, and what is failure, which is what we don't want, or we want less of it, right? So whenever we're practicing hammer-ons and pull-offs, picking whatever it is, we need to know what the freak we're trying to practice. What is it? Is it just getting the notes out with whatever picking motion you have, or is it the most shallow, superficial picking you can, and the smallest of movements? What is it that you're practicing, right? What is it specifically? We need to know that. Once you know it, you can focus on it. And when you focus on it, your brain's going to say, wrong, right, wrong, right. And there's this loop going back and forth where you get feedback from what you do. Feedback is, was that correct? Was that not correct? Was that a failure? Was that a success? And then you can try and adjust, right? You evaluate and adjust what you do. Evaluate and adjust, evaluate and adjust. Did I do it right or wrong? And I adjusted. Try again next time. Same thing goes here. Was that the right thing? The wrong thing? The second you start just going, or just, I'm practicing picking, man. Or I'm practicing chords. Right? What are you practicing? Are you practicing putting the fingers just behind the fret wire with the tip of your fingers, producing a chord that rings out clearly or not? Is that what you're practicing? Or are you practicing in an approximation of just getting it approximately right? Don't fool yourself when you're practicing in the beginning, something you don't know how to do yet. Don't fool yourself into thinking that you are allowed to do it incorrectly. You can do that for 2 minutes, right? You can say, okay, but after 2 minutes, you know where to put your fingers and you know how to do it. So the only thing you think about is doing it right before you strum the freaking strings. Or when you're doing picking, you know what to do. If you are educated, so that's what you focus on, that's what you practice. So you go into that zone of wanting to get something very specific and then reproducing the same action over and over again. Every time you do it right, cool, and then ineffectively, no, failure, and then success. This will increase your learning speed by 1,000% at least, maybe 10,000%, because if you just do this, you don't learn anything. I do. Just, okay, go try and become better at hitting the hoop without thinking about hitting the hoop, right? We're just going through the motions that looks like you're practicing, right? But you're not, because there's no when you don't hit it, and there's no yay when you do hit it, and you're not trying to get it right. That's the only, similarities there are between practicing something physical that involves gravity and guitar practicing, by the way. So you don't want to, mirror or emulate any other actions from that situation, because guitar practicing, you can actually get it right because you don't have timing, you don't have the flying through the air with the gravity that you have to work with. So you don't have to make mistakes after a couple of minutes of just learning the basic pattern. All right? So this is the main point. The second you lose your focus, what is your focus? It's the focus on what do I want and what do I don't want, in a loop where you get feedback from the sound you hear, from the feeling you have in your fingers, and you know exactly what it is that you're trying to do. Once you lose that because you lose your focus and go somewhere else, then you lose practicing. You can sit there for hours, for days, for months, for years. You don't learn anything. All right? And the worst thing is that if you do that for enough, you'll build in all kinds of mistakes in your technique, and you'll be unhappy with your technique for the rest of your life because you can't do it, basically. You might fake it, right? Because but it's only when you sit down, make sure you focus, you get that feedback loop. I should say before we go here that once you have it up to speed and you can actually play the two chords, and it's effortless now. It's just slow, right? It's effortless, but you can do it. You get those two chords down, and it's automatic now. But I can't do it fast because I'm putting each finger down one by one, right? But I can do it almost without looking, or I can do it without thinking too much about where that finger goes. It just goes there, right? And when you're at that level, you can start using some automation because suddenly you can practice without thinking too much about it and get it right every single time, right? At a low level of speed. Now, you don't have to focus that intensely anymore. Now the brain can practice by itself while you do other things like turn down your volume on your electric guitar and watch whatever. Wheel of Fortune for hours. Or learn something, right? Watch YouTube. Anything. Listen to a podcast. Read a book with sound, right? As your brain is basically going through the pattern that you taught it over and over again. Works like magic. Subscribe for more free videos. Do it. Do it now. Do it.